The human female is the only animal who will look at a potential mate who's doing worse than her and still choose him. Like, how crazy is that? The human female is the only animal who chooses a mate based on potential. You think the elephants are out there thinking, oh, I can fix him? No! Potential is a projection. It's a fairy tale. It's what you think he ought to be like. Potential is a projection of who you actually want being projected onto a person who isn't what you're looking for. And I promise you, not even the hyenas are out there choosing mates based on projection. And somewhere along the line, you were conditioned by the patriarchy to be a good little girl, to be a people pleaser who thinks she can fix other people, who thinks she needs to be of service to other people. And that led you down the wrong path. And at best, choosing a man based on potential and going out of your way to do things for him and to fix him, at best, it'll lead you to the wrong person, and eventually he'll probably leave you. But at worst, this man will drag you down if it is the last thing that he does. He will be your downfall. A lot of people like to say women sleep their way to the top, which is not true because most women actually sleep their way to the bottom. So welcome to Machiavelli versus Patriarchy. This is my new series where I decode one of the most controversial texts in history, Machiavelli's The Prince, and I use it as a guide to help us navigate through the patriarchy, find the system's loopholes, and eventually come out on top. Because believe it or not, Machiavelli actually created a toolkit to help women flip the patriarchy on its head. He didn't know he did, but he did. All right, DJ, cue up a new theme song because we got a new series. The Prince is such a controversial text because it gives us a demoralized view of the world. It's not clouded by projection. It's not clouded by what things ought to look like. It is simply telling you how it is. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing in this series. And it's pretty much what I've been doing this whole time. If you're new here, my name is Nikki. I am your host. I am the baddest bitch in the building. Not to be confused with you, who's also the baddest bitch in the building. And I have a bachelor's in public policy with high distinction, thank you very much, and a master's in political science where I focused on political theory, which was founded, as some say, by Machiavelli. So we have a full circle moment here where I'm actually using my degrees. This episode, as the title implies, is called Do Nothing for Men. So let's talk about that. There is a specific passage in The Prince that tells us exactly this. In chapter 3 of The Prince, Machiavelli states, "He who is the cause of another becoming powerful is ruined, because that predominance has been brought about either by astuteness or else by force, and both are distrusted by him who has been raised to power." So now he uses the example of King Louis XII and how he goofed, but we're going to apply this to why we should never, ever do anything for men in a heterosexual relationship. And there's two parts to this. First part is why you're doing it. Why are you doing the most for this dude? And the second part is what happens when you actually act a fool and do stuff for men. And we're going to get back to these 2 points later. First, I want to define what I mean by doing things for a man so we can be crystal clear, all right? I mean anything financial, physical, material, or time related. So I got a list here of things, and this is not exhaustive. But I'm going to read it for you to give you an understanding, all right? Paying for anything, helping him find a job, helping him make more money, planning dates, fixing him, mothering him, making yourself available for him, waiting around for him to call or text, clearing your schedule for him, approaching him first, cooking or cleaning for someone who isn't your husband, giving him rides, buying him gifts. If you use Viagra for too long, you may be subjected to blood clots. I'm kidding. And basically anything that you would want him to do for you. You think the female elephants are clearing their schedules for the male elephants? No. It works on their time. Okay? So as a rule of thumb, if it's something you want done for you, then you shouldn't be doing it for him. And yes, I know this is very much catered towards heterosexual relationships, but as somebody who suffers from the disease of heterosexuality, that's all I can speak to. So it would not be genuine of me to try to give advice for same-sex relationships, but there are lots of facts, tidbits, and information here that you could extrapolate and apply to your own life and your own relationships, whether that be heterosexual or same-sex relationships. Now that we have that cleared up, let's get some facts straight. Most women are doing it all wrong. We are doing it all wrong, and this is actually counterproductive. The way we are operating is counterproductive to the way men have been socialized and hardwired. You're doing way too much. And at the end of the day, that is going to come back and bite you in the ah. Now, like I said, the prince is actually a toolkit for women to navigate the patriarchy. In chapter 1 of The Prince, Machiavelli tells us that states can either be republics or principalities. Now, principalities can be either hereditary, which means that they're ruled by one family for generations, or they can be new principalities, which a ruler has recently created or conquered. And it's much more difficult for a prince to build loyalty from scratch when he's ruling over a new principality because he's starting from zero. And people have a status quo bias. And so when a new ruler arises, her enemies are those who were quote unquote injured when she came to power, right? I've now flipped it to the feminine. We're talking about the princess. So there are lots of people who have something to lose from changing the status quo, whether it be the citizens of a hereditary principality, which is now a new principality, or whether it be a man under a patriarchy who is now having things challenged by women who are no longer deciding to be doormats. So for our purposes, men are the hereditary principalities and women are the new principalities. Does that make sense? Do you see how this parallel works? Yeah. And I have to give credit to Stacey Vanek Smith, who wrote the book Machiavelli for Women. She actually drew this parallel. So gotta give credit where credit is due. So now let's shift our focus to the princess. Falling in love is a chemical reaction in our brains that basically want to get us to sit on the dick and reproduce. I did an entire episode about the literal brain reaction, the chemical reaction that happens in your brain when you fall in love. I'll link it here. It goes into all the science, but that's essentially what it is. Falling in love is a chemical reaction that as a society we've given meaning to and that we've tied expectations around. So it's like falling in love is literally like the ultimate smasher pass. Like when I'm watching the World Cup and playing smasher pass with the players because I don't care about football. Now, when we move into the long-term pair bonding phase, which comes after the first 6 to 8 months of infatuation, that uses a separate brain system, okay? That uses the attachment network. The first 6 to 8 months of infatuation actually drew on the same brain circuits as mania, intoxication, thirst, hunger. You're literally tweaking when you're in love. Well, after that's cooled down, we switch over to the attachment network in our brain. And in women, the social attachment happens mainly through the hormone of oxytocin. In men, the primary bonding hormone is vasopressin, and it's linked to loyalty, attachment, territoriality, and protective behaviors. Vasopressin is released when men feel stress, so go and stress them the fuck out, and when they get to protect, solve, or provide. So what does this tell us? What does the science tell us? Love is not enough. You need to get him attached. When that infatuation wears off, you need something that's going to keep him there. And that is the attachment. And that's where so many women screw up. And it's not entirely our fault. It's because we've been socialized to keep doing. Now, you might be thinking at this point, oh, but I don't want to play games. What is the title of this episode? Do nothing for men. You don't want to play games? You're literally doing nothing. Or you might be thinking, oh, this is exhausting. You're literally doing nothing. Or you're thinking, oh, but this is manipulative. you are literally doing nothing. You're literally doing nothing. You're literally doing nothing. You're literally doing nothing. Thing. If you think like this, you're negotiating with yourself to find a way out of this reality because you want to be clouded by projection. You don't want to see the world the way that it is. And this is a victimella mentality because you are already positioning yourself as a loser. You've chosen to opt out. Oh, I don't want to play games. I don't want to la 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 la. You've chosen to opt out, which doesn't make you more virtuous. It doesn't make you a better person. It makes you a loser by default. Life is a game. The workplace is a game. Dating is a game. Everything is a game. And the unfortunate thing is that boys have been socialized to play chess and to not feel guilty, and girls have been socialized to play checkers and to still feel guilty every step of the way. And if you opt out, other people are just going to keep moving their pieces. They're going to get ahead. They're going to knock you down, and you're going to be a loser by default. So please, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to play games. You're not here to win the virtue Olympics. You're not here to win the righteousness Olympics. You're not here to win the loser Olympics, the victimella Olympics. You're here to stand on business because this is a business, an establishment.
This is a business, an establishment.
Remember when I said that we are going to discuss why you're doing too much for men and what happens after you do too much for men? Let's turn to that now. Hey baddies, quick intermission here. As you probably know, this show is entirely independently produced by me. I am the producer, the director, the writer, the researcher, the fact checker, the marketing executive, and the unpaid intern who gets everyone coffee. Not to be confused with the unpaid intern of the Patriarchy. And this is independently produced because I am committed to giving you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And it's because of support from baddies like you who subscribe to my Patreon that I can continue delivering the truth and not censoring myself and tiptoeing around topics that are way too important to ignore, but are kind of scary if you are signed to a label or a production company. And of course, I make it worth your while. I'm not just saying, please go subscribe to my Patreon, ma'am, please. You'll get tons of perks. I have a private phone line that you'll get the number to, and you can call me pretty much anytime. I'll answer if I'm free. And you also get other perks like early and ad-free releases of my episodes, bonus episodes, voting power on my girly laws, handwritten letters from me, and a bunch of other perks. Check it out for yourself. The link is in the show notes. And again, thank you all so much for your continued support and to my continued promise of giving you the whole truth independently without having to tiptoe around anything. Your support means the world to me. All right, back to the show. As I've said many times before on this show, people are very quick to forget you, especially when you did something for them with the expectation of gratitude. And men especially, because they've been socialized to play chess, they will be super quick to forget what you did for them, whether it was building them up or helping them find a job or whatever it is, and they will feel no guilt in discarding you. Because men have been socialized to have audacity and confidence, and because we all have this low-level narcissism, this sense of grandiosity within all of us that men have nurtured for more of their life because of the way they've been socialized, they will have no problem using you and discarding you. I'm not talking about every single dude out there, but the majority of them. You need to understand this. And as a side note, this is why I feel like a lot of men gamble. I feel like no woman I know gambles. And I know this is anecdotal, but I feel like gambling is more so geared towards men because of this inflated confidence and audacity that they have, that just based on their gut feeling, they're going to go and lose a bunch of money. Anyway, that was a side note. And like I've mentioned before on this show, in a few of my more recent patriarchy hacks, everyone has both a sense of insignificance in this world and a deep-rooted need to feel important. And once they get a taste of that sense of importance, it awakes something in their nature, in human nature, that's hard to quell. That's why I feel like there are so many falling outs after weddings where the bride turns into this huge entitled person and the bridesmaids are kind of just left to die. And after the wedding, the bridesmaids and the maid of honor part ways with the bride. I actually use this as an example in Patriarchy Hack 35, I believe. I'll link everything. Don't worry. I'll link everything. So when you are doing too much, you're doing those things I mentioned in my list that are not exhaustive, right? Like helping him find a job or fixing him. When you're doing that, your effort is enabling that person to turn their grandiose energy inward. Okay? It's like what religion does for men, because they think that they are above everybody else. So maybe doing too much for men is kind of like Abrahamic religions. Okay? Cut it out. You know how we feel about that around here. And at some point, your effort will tip the scales and they will go from the earning to entitlement pipeline. They're going to think they are entitled to your effort. They're entitled to your emotional labor, your physical labor, your sexual labor. They're going to think they're entitled to that. Remember the onus to anus pipeline. You got to be an anus and shift the onus. When you put the onus entirely on yourself, that strokes people's grandiosity. Over time, when you set precedents and you set the bar higher and higher and higher, and you set the precedent that you're going to keep doing things, they're going to start to rely on you. They're going to start to understand that precedent. And when you pull back, they're going to get upset. And once they rise, for example, you help him find a job and now he's making more money than you and he ascends the corporate ladder. Once they rise, they will see you as being on the level they were before. Now you are beneath them. And they think, well, if I was able to woo her when I was on that lower level, imagine who I'd be able to attract now that I'm on this higher level. They think they can get someone better now that they're popping. So you got to be very careful. Like I said, they have no guilt or remorse or shame in discarding you when they are done with you. He sees himself as the prize because you've treated him as the prize. You've turned your energy outward to build him up. And you only do that for somebody who is the prize or someone you've been brainwashed into thinking is the prize. And now this goof is out here thinking he is the prize. And he's going to go get a Van Cleef bracelet and a pearl necklace and he's going to start dressing like someone's grandma. So taking this back to Machiavelli, he sees power as a zero-sum game. And I've talked about this a lot on this show. I don't see a lot of things as being a zero-sum game. I believe in abundance because most things that we are told are scarce in this world are actually it's just an artificial scarcity. It's not actually scarce. We've been told that it's scarce. And this way of thinking keeps us in competition with other people, and it especially keeps us in competition with other women. Okay, so the artificial scarcity helps systems like patriarchy and capitalism because it keeps people in the rat race. But in this case, what actually is zero sum is who is the prize. There can only be one person who is the prize in a relationship. And it sure as hell isn't the person who has a set of balls hanging in between their legs. And this is where sometimes, I don't care if this is controversial, but I do believe in gender roles when it serves you. And like I discussed with the falling in love and the vasopressin and how men actually get bonded to their partners, there are certain things that we should be doing in a relationship, and there are certain things that we shouldn't be doing in a relationship. So gender roles help when they serve us and when they serve a common goal. Not when they, push you down into subservience and all that. No. Not the repackaged 1950s gender roles, but the gender roles that we set on our terms. So yes, in this case, who is the prize? That is a zero-sum game. And it points to something very fundamental, which is that power can either be taken or created. Power is not given. If you are waiting for someone to give power to you, to give you something, babes, you're not going to find it. So you need to understand that. And that's when you setting the precedent of what you will and won't stand for. That's when you setting the precedent of what you expect from this person comes into play. And that's why this is so important. So now let's get to the root of the issue. Let's get to the root of the issue of why you are doing too much for these men. I have another list of things that I want to go through in terms of why you're doing the most for these men, why you have this effort gap between how you want to be treated and how you actually are being treated, and why that effort gap is not closing. So I'm going to go through this list. The first thing is you doing too much is a way of proving yourself. You think you have to prove how good you are. You have to prove that you're wifey material. Oh my God. The biggest threat is if a guy says, I want to wife you up, or you're wifey. Please, I'd rather call me a whore. Just don't call me a wife. Like, because when they call you a wife, they mean a housekeeper. They mean the Triple H, the hooker, housekeeper, and help. Okay. So don't, please, that is a threat on my life. Do not call me a wife. So yeah, it is a way of proving yourself. And I'm actually going to get back to this because there's a lot to unpack here. Another reason could be because you're a pick-me, or you have leftover pick-me habits and mindsets. And that's okay. We've all been a pick-me at one point or another. That's how we've been socialized, unfortunately. But we need to unlearn that conditioning. We need to deprogram that from our mindset. And the thing about a pick-me is that a pick-me is a people pleaser with a specialized division of labor, because she specializes on pleasing men. And one of the ways you please men is by doing things for them. And that is actually a form of short-term gratification for us, because we think that, okay, if I prove myself and I do this and I do that, then he's going to like me more. But like I discussed in how men actually bond with their partners, that might only be beneficial in the first 6 to 8 months when you are both infatuated and tweaking. But then after that, when all those hormones wear off, it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you. Another reason is projection. I've talked about this so many times in this episode. If I said take a shot every time I said projection, we'd all be dead right now. But it is projection, because you think that you have an idea of who you want, and this guy you're dating might not be exactly that person. But you think that by doing these things, okay, if I help him find a job, then he'll be in the salary range of the partner that I want. If I help him do this, then he'll be the person I want. You're helping him and fixing him and doing these things for him based on the person, because you want to turn him into the person you want, rather than just discarding this dude, saying bye-bye, and going out and actually finding the person you want. You think the female hyenas are out here fixing the male hyenas? No, they're out there looking for a carcass to eat. Another reason is that you might have this need to be understood. You might want people to think, oh, I'm a good, generous person. I'm a righteous person. I'm a good girl. I'm a virtuous person. Whatever it is, you might have this need to be understood by other people. And doing things for them, doing too much, putting yourself out there, turning your energy outward could be a way of you trying to get people's understanding. But like I said, in Patriarchy hack number 32, stop trying to be understood by everyone. You seeking understanding is actually you seeking permission to exist. Okay? So you're living your life on someone else's terms. Simple as that. Another reason could be that you fell for the propaganda of what men say they want, okay? Oh, I want a girl who's going to be my rock. I want a girl who's going to be with me through thick and thin. I want a girl who can cook. I want a girl who... Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. Talk is the cheapest, easiest thing anyone can do, because it's fucking free. You can just yap, and say whatever you want. Talk is cheap. Stop listening to what comes out of these guys' mouths. Usually, if you want the truth, take what comes out of his mouth and flip it. Oh, I need an honest woman. I need a woman who's just completely honest with me. I hate a liar. If he says that, he's probably the world's biggest liar. Whatever he says he's adamant on, oh, I want a woman who doesn't go out, doesn't drink, doesn't party, whatever he says he's adamant on, that's a projection that he is doing. Just like how I talk about inversions and how the judgmental person is usually somebody who judges people as a defense mechanism so that others don't see the truth that they're hiding. Usually a judgmental person judges a trait that they actually have, because people show us their truth, not their defense mechanism. So when these guys are really adamant about something, about what they want a woman to do or not to do, it's most likely because that's what they're doing. It's an inversion. So remember that. Talk is cheap. It is cheap as chips. Okay? Stop listening to what comes out of these buffoons' mouths. So those are some of the main reasons. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. There are other reasons out here. Maybe you're thinking of one that I haven't mentioned. Put them down in the comments so the other baddies can see and share, and we can also have some more discussion about this. But these are some of the main reasons, and all of these point to how your focus is outward. And this reminds me of something I heard someone say: focus on you until the focus is on you. So let's wrap this up by talking about what a princess does. It all goes back to how much you invest in yourself and how your energy is inward. Respect from others comes from the respect and the investment you put into yourself, because people are not going to treat you better than the way you treat yourself. And that's a fact. People are looking at you to take your lead. If you cross your own boundaries, if you bend over backwards for other people, if you say no when you mean yes, yes when you mean no, people are looking at you for those cues. And then they're going to treat you accordingly, because no one is going to respect you more than you respect yourself. And a self-actualized woman has nothing to prove. Just because you're a woman doesn't necessarily mean you're a good person or that you are the prize. You need to be self-actualized. You need to work on yourself. You need to unlearn your internalized patriarchy, deprogram the pick-me behaviors from your mind, and truly understand that you are the prize before you demand that of somebody else. So a self-actualized woman has nothing to prove. And that's why insecure women are always jumping through hoops to prove themselves. Because more than anything, they're trying to prove their worth to themselves, because they haven't internalized that. They haven't understood that. They haven't self-actualized. So like I say, my magic mantra: be an anus and shift the onus. And in this context, it means you do nothing for men, because the onus is for people who have something to prove. And that man has something to prove to you, that he is worthy of you and your time and your effort and your energy, not the other way around. The prize is the zero-sum game here. And as soon as you do something for this man, as soon as you turn your energy outward, as soon as you compromise your boundaries and bring yourself down a notch, you have devalued yourself. And they will pick up on that and they will take that lead. And now you've set that precedent. And it's very hard to undo certain precedents. So I'm going to repeat myself. What do you do for a man? Nothing. And with that, baddies, I'm going to end this episode here, because remember, the female hyenas, they're not out there doing the most for the men. They're not. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was my first episode in my new series of Machiavelli versus the Patriarchy. Stay tuned for more. I'm going to be dropping these whenever I see fit. It's going to be a little surprise for you. And just don't forget that you are the baddest bitch in any building that you step foot in. Until next time, stay bad. Love you. Bye. Boom, boom, boom. This is your train conductor speaking. We want to give a shout out to all the baddies in first class who are supporting on Patreon. Shout out to Melinda, Lindsay, Danny, Nadine, Kate, Yelena, Via, Adriana, Amara, Hannah, Emberly, Brittany, Gemma, Amanda, Red, Sophia M, Sophia K, Ladenko, Melissa, Lisa, Nilufar, and Naomi. I switched up the order. Thank you all so much for your support, and enjoy your perks in first class. Bing, boom, boom.
More good women have lost to marriage and to war, famine, disease, and disaster.